The vine that remembered. In the heart of the forest, beneath a vine that had grown older and wiser with each passing season, the animals still gathered. The grapevine, once the secret keeper of a lonely fox, now stood tall and proud, its leaves stretching toward the sky, its clusters full and vibrant. The grapes had aged too, not in wrinkled skins but in spirit. They had seen much, laughed much, and remembered everything. "Do you remember when he first came?" Gerald asked one bright morning, his voice carrying softly on the wind. "Of course," Petunia answered, swaying gently. "He tried to trick us." "He was cheeky," chuckled another grape. "Thought he was the cleverest creature in the forest." "And maybe he was," said Gerald thoughtfully. "But he hadn't yet learned that the best use of cleverness is caring." They sighed in agreement, the vine humming with quiet energy. By now, Felix the fox had grown older, his red fur touched with silver at the tips. He no longer raced around the forest with boundless energy, but his eyes still sparkled, and his stories had only gotten better. He had mentored younger foxes, taught them kindness, shared the lessons he had learned under this very vine. And now, he came less for the stories, and more for the silence, the warm, knowing silence of a place that held his entire journey. On this particular morning, Felix arrived with a bundle of young animals in tow. A nervous beaver, a shy squirrel, a curious mole, all of them wide-eyed and eager, yet unsure. Felix sat down at the base of the vine and patted the earth beside him. The little ones nestled in, peering up at the grapes. "Tell us a story," whispered the squirrel. Felix smiled. "I'll tell you the oldest one I know," he said. "About a fox, a vine, and a feather." And so he began. As he spoke, the grapes watched, remembering every word as if it were happening all over again. The young animals listened, entranced by Felix's voice and the shimmer in his gaze. He told them of the day he'd tried to fool the grapes, of how his clever plan backfired, of the magical feather and the wish he had made, and of the friendship that bloomed like wildflowers in spring. When he finished, the young ones were silent for a moment. "Is it all true?" the mole finally asked. Felix chuckled. "Every bit of it. And if you stay kind, stay curious, and always listen, this forest will tell you stories of your own." The little ones nodded, inspired. As the day turned to dusk, the animals began to leave, but Felix lingered. He looked up at the vine and smiled. "Thank you," he said softly. The grapes rustled in response, as if bowing in return. "Thank you, Felix," whispered Gerald. "You turned a tale into a tradition." And so, under the talking grapes, the stories lived on. Not just about Felix, but about everyone who ever dared to grow, to hope, to wish, and to belong. Where stories grow. Deep in the forest, where the trees lean close as if sharing secrets, and the grapevine whispers in the wind, something magical still lingers. It's not loud like thunder or bright like lightning. It's quiet, gentle, like the feeling you get when someone remembers your name, or when you find a place that feels like home for the very first time. It's the kind of magic that stays long after the storyteller has stopped speaking. The grapevine still grows where it always did, its roots reaching down through memory, and its leaves stretching up through time. And though Felix no longer visits each day, his paw prints are forever pressed into the earth. His laughter still echoes faintly in the mossy hollows, and the animals often say, "This is where it all began." Now, others carry on his tradition. A young raccoon spins tales beside the vine at dusk. A family of field mice hosts story nights under the moonlight. A porcupine with a soft heart and a shy voice reads poems while sitting in Felix's old spot, warmed by the stories left behind. And yes, the grapes still talk. Not to everyone. Only to those who come with open ears and open hearts. Those who don't seek tricks or treasure, but simply want to listen. Because the forest knows the difference. Stories are like seeds, Gerald often says, his plump grape form swaying with age and pride. They grow when they're planted in kindness. And watered with wonder, Petunia adds. Every so often, a new creature stumbles into the clearing. Lost, lonely, or just curious. And when they do, the forest seems to hush just a little, making room for another tale to begin. One day, a tiny bird with a bent wing landed beneath the vine. She didn't know the stories. She didn't know Felix. She didn't even know where she was. But she sat quietly and watched the wind dance through the leaves. And then, a single grape overhead gave a little wiggle. "Would you like to hear a story?" Gerald asked softly. The bird blinked. "Can I?" "Of course," Petunia answered. "This is a place where stories are always shared." So they told her the tale of the fox who was clever, lonely, and full of mischief. They told her how he met the talking grapes, made a wish, and chose friendship over pride. They told her how he changed, not because someone told him to, but because he chose to. The bird listened, heart wide open. When the story ended, she smiled. "Maybe," she said, "one day I'll have a story too." "You already do," said Gerald. "You're here, aren't you?" And that's how it always begins. Not with a trick. Not with a feather. But with a heart ready to grow. And so, under the talking grapes, stories still bloom. Softly, endlessly, beautifully. Waiting for the next creature to listen, to believe, and maybe, to become part of the forest's magic forever. A whisper for you. Sometimes, if you walk deep enough into the forest, past the babbling brook and beneath the arched canopies of whispering trees, you might hear something different. It might be a soft rustle in the vines, like laughter on the breeze. It might be the creak of an old branch, swaying just so, or a bird who seems to be listening instead of singing. But if you're quiet, truly quiet, you might hear a voice. Not a loud one. Not a frightening one. A gentle, grape-sized whisper. "Hello," it might say. "Do you have time for a story?" And if you do, if you pause and sit beneath the dancing leaves and let your heart slow down, you might hear a tale unlike any other. It won't be just about a fox, or a vine, or a magical feather. It will be about you. Because stories, real ones, have a way of finding the listener who needs them most. Maybe you've felt a little like Felix once did. Maybe you've made mistakes or felt misunderstood. Maybe you've been the trickster. Or maybe you've been tricked. But this story is a reminder. You can always change. You can always grow. And you can always choose kindness, no matter where you start. The forest doesn't care how clever you are or how many vines you've tried to climb. What it cares about is how you listen, how you care, how you share. So if you ever find yourself beneath a grapevine that seems to be humming with memory, sit. Let your ears open. Let your heart open wider. The grapes just might speak to you. And you? You just might find that you have a story worth telling. Not because you've done something grand or magical or heroic, but because you chose to be gentle and to listen and to believe. That's the kind of magic this forest knows best. That's the kind of magic that lasts. And even if you never meet a fox with a wish, or grapes with voices, or a feather that shimmers with enchantment, you'll still have this story in your heart. Because now you are part of it. You are part of the tale passed down through vines and roots, from whiskers to wings, from story time to stars. And every time you tell it to someone else, whether it's a little sister, a curious friend, or a quiet pet curled by your side, you'll plant another seed. Another beginning. Another whisper in the forest. So go ahead. Tell your story. Because somewhere out there, someone is listening. And the grapes? They're always ready to talk. The last little leaf. If you are holding this book right now, if your eyes have danced across these pages, and your heart has followed the trail of paws and vines, then something truly special has already happened. You are now part of the forest. Not the one with trees and moss, although those are wonderful too, but the one that lives in stories. In this forest, you don't need to pack a bag or wear hiking boots. You don't need a map or a compass. All you need is curiosity, kindness, and a bit of wonder in your pocket. Because the forest of stories is always close. You might feel it in the way your cat purrs when you speak gently to her, or in how your grandparent smiles when you ask for a memory, or when the wind passes through the leaves just right, and you could almost swear you heard them whisper your name. That's the forest calling you. That's the world reminding you. Stories are alive. They grow when you share them. They bloom when you believe in them. And just like grapes on a vine, they are sweetest when passed from one hand, or one heart, to another. Felix the Fox's journey may be at its end, but yours is just beginning. So what kind of story will you tell? Will you be the brave one who helps someone new feel at home? Will you be the quiet listener who notices someone's sadness and gently sits beside them? Will you use your cleverness not to trick, but to teach, to include, and to inspire? Every day is a blank page. And every moment is a chance to make it meaningful. Even the smallest kindness, a shared cookie, a helping hand, a smile to someone sitting alone, can be its own kind of magic. A seed of story that one day may become a legend told under the stars. Remember what the grapes said. Stories are seeds. Water them with wonder. Root them in kindness. Watch what grows. So close your eyes, just for a moment. Take a deep breath. Let your heart slow. Can you hear it? Somewhere, just beyond your thoughts, a soft voice is waiting. Hello, it says. Would you like to begin? You already have. And just like that, a new tale begins. Yours. Thank you for walking with us. For listening. For imagining. Thank you for believing in talking grapes, in wish feathers, and most of all, in the magic of change. As you close this book, know that you're never far from the forest. Because the forest is wherever stories are told. And the last little leaf, still swaying on the vine, is whispering just one more thing. We'll see you again. The feather that flew again. Long after Felix the Fox had lived his tales, long after his whiskers turned silver and the grapevine's laughter softened into memory, something stirred in the sky. It was small, weightless, glowing faintly, like a firefly's sigh. A single feather, white with a golden tip, was drifting through the clouds. The same magical feather that had once granted Felix a wish had not disappeared. Oh no! Magic never vanishes. It waits. The feather had floated high for seasons, watching the forest below, waiting for a heart that needed it. And one morning, it found one. Far beyond the talking grapevine, near a quiet hill with sun-warmed grass and daisies as bright as stars, lived a young hedgehog named Lila. Lila was not the fastest, not the boldest, not the loudest, but she noticed things. She noticed when someone was left out of games. She noticed when the wind shifted, and the smell of rain crept in. She noticed the tiniest butterfly resting on a broken petal and whispered, "You're still beautiful." Lila believed in things others forgot to believe in, like cloud shapes that meant something and puddles that held other worlds. One morning, she woke to find the feather lying gently across her doorstep. It shimmered as if it had flown across time just to land before her paws. Lila blinked at it, curious. She picked it up carefully, holding it as if it might break. And as she did, the wind hushed. "Make a wish," a voice whispered, not out loud but inside her heart. And she knew. She didn't wish for a crown or a race won. She didn't wish to be the loudest or the fastest. She closed her eyes and said softly, "I wish to help others feel like they belong." The feather glowed once, twice, then disappeared in a gentle swirl of golden dust. The next day, things began to change. A grumpy toad who never joined group games found himself laughing beside Lila as they built leaf forts. A shy owl who always sat alone at gatherings found herself invited, genuinely invited, by Lila's soft gaze and open smile. A squirrel who had made fun of Lila's quiet voice apologized, not because he had to, but because Lila's kindness made him want to. The forest didn't become louder, or fancier, or flashier. It became warmer. And soon, Lila's little hill became another place stories bloomed. Not under grapes this time, but under daisies and sunbeams. And though she never spoke of the feather, some night she'd glance up at the stars, smile and whisper, "Thank you." Far above, the magic feather soared on again, looking for the next heart ready to change the world gently. Because stories never end. They only find new beginnings. Seeds of story. Have you ever planted a seed? Not just the kind that grows into sunflowers or strawberries, but the kind that starts with a story, a smile, or a thought that twinkles in your mind like starlight. Because whether you knew it or not, you've been planting seeds all along. Every time you listened with care. Every time you shared your favorite part of a book with someone new. Every time you imagined something that might not be real, but felt true in your heart. You were growing stories. Just like the grapevine that spoke and the fox who listened. Just like Lila and her quiet courage. Every tale starts with someone who believes. You don't need a feather to be magical. You don't need to be the fastest or the funniest. You just need to be present. To care. To imagine. Maybe you'll write your own story. Maybe you'll draw it. Maybe you'll sing it, or dance it, or whisper it into the wind where only the trees can hear. However you choose to tell it, your story matters. It doesn't need to have a grand quest or a dragon. It doesn't have to include a magic feather or grapes that giggle. It just needs to have you, your thoughts, your wonder, your words. And here's something beautiful. Stories don't run out. They grow. They stretch. They twirl across generations, passed down like favorite blankets or birthday songs. Maybe one day, you'll be the one telling this very tale to someone younger than you. There once was a fox, you'll say. He played tricks and met talking grapes. And in the end, he chose friendship over pride. And maybe, just maybe, that person will smile, close their eyes, and see the forest in their heart. Right now, even as you finish this last page, the forest is still out there. The grapes are still whispering. The wind is still weaving tales. And the magic? The magic is sitting quietly beside you, waiting for the next beginning. So before you close this book, ask yourself, What kind of story will you grow next? Will it be brave? Will it be gentle? Will it be full of wonder and wild thoughts that leap from page to page like foxes bounding through moonlight? There's no wrong answer. Only this. Be kind. Be curious. Be bold enough to believe in things others forget to see. And remember, every great story once began as a whisper in someone's heart. So go on. Take a deep breath. Let your imagination stretch like morning light. And plant your seed. Because somewhere, someone is already waiting to hear your tale. And the forest? It's listening. Always.